the shape document and the Excel document are. They are going to be in the VLRC under business management. And I definitely do recommend that you read the shape book to get all of the information, especially if you're applying for an Excel award, so that you have everything turned in. So go ahead and go to the next slide, Jonathan. One more, please. Okay. The SHRM Affiliate Program for Excellent, which is our shape. It's really our accountability tool. Each year, you're required to report your activities for the calendar year. This document is used to ensure that you are on track or in good standing. So think of it as your accountability tool for the board. SHRM will provide your tools, resources, and reminders to make sure that you are successful. But here's your first key date, January 31st. This document is due each year on or before the 31st. It allows for your board to take January to finalize your information before submitting. One thing to note about the shape is that you cannot go in and start it and come back and finish it. You have to do it all at one time. That's why we give you the month of January to get everything together and submit it by the 31st. Next slide, please. The shape document actually has two sections. The first section, this is what you're required to fill out to get the minimum guidance and to remain in good standing with SHRM. What does good standing mean? It means that your chapter or state council has met and maintained the membership requirements, the marketing brand, finance, and programming expectations. You remain eligible to receive your chapter or state council financial payments from SHRM. Section 2 is the optional section to complete. However, if your chapter wants to be eligible to receive any further recognition and awards, you must complete Section 2. Next slide, please. And the new shape workbook has some new sections to it. We did share this in VLBM, and I'm going over it again. So if you have questions, now's the time to ask. But for 2022, the shape workbook, the dual membership question will be added as the new question 1 for the state council and as question 2 for the chapter workbook. So the questions that we're asking is for you to report your dual membership and acquisition goal progress as of Q3 membership reporting. And then it's a yes or no answer. And then you're going to submit a proposed dual membership and acquisition goal for 2022. So you're doing this at the beginning of the year instead of us reaching out with multiple emails asking for this information. So you want to have that information put together, talk it through with your board before you fill the form out, but you want to get your 2022 goals together and also make sure you look at your progress for the Q3 membership reporting. The new questions that they're going to ask is it'll say based on the third quarter reporting, are you on track to meet your goals? It's yes or no. Your 2021 dual membership retention goal for your chapter state, they'll ask you to insert what it was. And then based on Q3 reporting, are you on track to meet your goal? And you'll do yes or no. And then, of course, the new proposed questions, we're going to ask you to put an acquisition percentage goal and a retention percentage goal. And lastly, if you charge membership dues to join the local chapter, you'll be asked to report that amount of dues in your dual for your dual member questions. So if you do ask for chapter dues, that will have to be inserted as well. If you don't, you just put a 0. And of course, you also will need to complete a 2021 state council or a chapter leader information form, a CLIF or a SCLIF, by December 1st. We have a lot of those right now. We're still putting them in, but we'll get those in as quickly as possible. But that's the first part of it. You need to make sure that we have your new chapter listings, your new chapter volunteers. And so that's the first part of being in good standing with SHRM. This is your dual membership action plan template or your map. Um, this is something that you will fill out for your membership goals for 2022. And what you're going to do with this is you're going to turn this into your state council. Your state council will hold on to all of these, and they will go through them, and they will determine off of what's been turned into them what will be the state council's goal, and then they will upload that information. But this is a very important form. You want to make sure you're using it as part of your strategic planning, as well as bringing it to any of your monthly board meetings, because these action plans can be altered. You can change them at any time, and if it's not working, or if you need to add some information. So this is a living document, and you want to always bring it to your board meetings to have conversations around it. The next slide, please. Okay, we did talk about the cliffs and spliffs, but I wanted to put the slide in here as a reminder. These links are to the actual forms, and we want you to fill them out, even if you have open positions at this time. We know that you're going to fill them eventually, and then that second bullet point has the update form where you can add just the updates. So get in what you have at this time, and then you can add later to any open positions. Okay, section one. It also, besides what we've talked about as the new information added onto it, it also includes your year-end financial results from the period of January 1 through December 31st. So it's going to ask you total chapter expenses for 2021, the net profit and loss, total chapter assets, and also to add any of the 2020 submissions or dues for the chapter, which I mentioned earlier. This will ensure that your current SHRM affiliate logo is correct. So that's in section one. So make sure that you're looking at that, make sure it's correct. And it has a SHRM graphic standards manual in there as well if you need to take a look at it. Also to make sure that you're meeting any programming and board meeting requirements to stay in good standing. Um, and just an FYI, the logo was updated in 2019, so make sure you got the correct one. Better Workplace, Better World affiliate logo that you're utilizing. And then just on section two, again, you have to complete section two to be eligible for the Excel Award. And again, want to remind you to read the SHAPE handbook for everything in there, as we're not covering the entire handbook. But the dual membership requirement that we added in 2021 for the chapter membership director and also the certification director. And then beginning in 2022, the SHRM certification director has to be certified as well. And both of these will be required to be in good standing moving forward. Next one. Okay. You'll also, okay. You also will actively need to promote SHRM certification and recertification for the SHRM CP, SCP, and also by obtaining and maintaining the recertification provider status. That's in section 2 as well. And that is November 15th, the reaffirmation date. So if you've not done that yet, we will allow it to get in if you get it in by the end of this year. So make sure you've done that. Also, the chapter and council will be represented at a SHRM Volunteer Leader Business Meeting, VLBM, and that was held in November. And also that at least one chapter requirement is that chapter board member will participate in at least 75% of state council meetings and conference calls, including representation at the state or regional affiliate leadership conference if one is held. Next slide, please. So the best practices for SHAPE, of course, is to review and utilize the SHAPE document as a planning tool for your board updates under your year-end reporting. Make sure to keep up-to-date records of submissions and review other relevant documents. And then assign someone to collect the information and report up so that one person is responsible for having all that information. There really there is a lot to report in that form, so don't try to do it alone. Make sure that the board of director talks about it, talks about the numbers, and you have assistance in putting that stuff together. A few best practices that will help you achieve success, of course, is maybe have the incoming director or president to lead the SHAPE document. Divide up the document between leaders. So maybe your membership is working on the membership part, your certifications working on the reaffirmation, and then also, your board, maybe a board fellow role can be added so someone is responsible for it. But whatever you do to get this document completed and submitted in a timely manner sets you up for your success. The 2022 SHAPE workbooks are available by the end of the year to assist with planning moving forward. So at this time, I'll take any questions regarding SHAPE.
Put the questions in the question and answer part on the right side or in the chat, and one of us will chime in and let her know what she needs to be asked. Or she, obviously, Diana, you can look on there and see it too if you want. I don't see any currently.
Thank you, Marty, for posting that in there. That's a very important part.
And I would also interject, if anyone has any experience or can share their positive experiences or some helpful tips, please feel free to chime.
I can mention something that I ran into last year. It would be when people were submitting their Excel award, for the Excel award. Some individuals did not get their foundation money in time, so that's why I keep emphasizing to definitely read that SHAPE handbook.
Emphasize this evening as well the purpose of this, and as we go along we're going to talk about how the SHAPE and the Excel work together, and then Tammy's going to interject how the dashboard that the district directors have created actually is a tool as well to keep you on track. Have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? Where are you at with this in your planning process? If there's one thing that you all can take away from tonight's session, is that these are not 4 separate documents or tasks to be completed, but they are really your strategic plan for the entire year. And it is your roadmap that will keep you on task if you use them and look at them on a regular basis.
Thank you, Marty. And once you put the information, it doesn't take long at all to submit it. So it's not a really big project. It's just getting that information together. So I recommend going and looking at the form and getting all that information put together before your submission. It looks like we have a question about the foundation donations. It's due by the end of the year.
It is due by 11:59, December 31st. Gotta get your finger on that submit button before the ball drops. And Mike Owens is with us tonight. Mike is our current Workforce Readiness Director and a former chapter president. And he put in the comments about how sharing the responsibility, splitting it up among parts and having it a lot of people being involved does make the process run very smooth. So Mike, thank you
Right.
for your comments.
Yes, and we did add quite a bit about the membership in there, so that would get definitely your membership part, a team involved in that as well. Split it up. Any other questions regarding SHAPE?
Just some additional information here from Gloria. Said they just started dual membership and have someone assigned to manage. So far, so good. Great job, Gloria. Great. All right, are we ready to jump into the next segment, Excel?
Let's talk about Excel. Next slide, please, Jonathan. Okay.
I was trying.
So I'm sorry?
I said, I'm sorry, I was trying, but it was delayed.
Oh, no worries. Thank you, Jonathan. So in 2020, the SHRM Excel award requirements were updated. This year's Excel, we have a section added, which is basically really a gatekeeper. That gate requires the submission of one initiative focused on dual membership acquisition and retention to be eligible for a Bronze Excel Award, and as a basis for any other award level, which is the silver, gold, or platinum. So this includes initiatives that support and foster the acquisition and retention of dual members, which is a member of both SHRM and a local chapter. You must submit a dual membership initiative summary and results first before indicating the level of award that you're applying for. So that's your gatekeeper. That's your first step. Excel is your incentive recognition tool. So did you do a workforce readiness program that yielded great results for the chapter? Did you raise awareness to our untapped groups like veterans or hiring the formerly incarcerated? Did the state have a large initiative with emerging professionals and students? So do you have a success story to tell about maybe a learning experience? So activities may include around professional members, non-members, emerging professionals, students, non-traditional HR professionals, business owners. So that dual membership incentive recognition it can be around any of those items. And Excel will capture the initiatives, and it's going to be based from January through December, of course, in that 12 months. And you must complete section 1 and 2 of SHAPE to be eligible for the Excel Award. And the third most important date for you to know, of course, is March 15th, and that's the date that Excel submissions have to be submitted by. There are some tools in the VLRC that will help you to complete an Excel Award document and give you some hints on how to fill it out. Go ahead and go to the next slide. But we'll show a few examples in here as well. So again, dual membership acquisition and retention, that must be completed first to apply for the award level. So that's put in, then you select your award level, and then you enter your categories around your initiatives. After you document your membership initiative, then you can, again, indicate the award level. And then the award levels are, your initiatives can be around additional membership, serving HR professionals, advancing the HR professionals, or enhancing the SHRM community. And on the slide is a description of each of those, and this is on the VLRC as well.
I'd like to interject here. Just
Absolutely.
for a moment, as we're talking about dual membership, this is a conversation that Diana and I have had a couple of times. There are actually two different places or ways that dual membership is talked about at SHRM. Right now, we're talking about dual membership where an individual is a member of both the local chapter and the SHRM National. Gloria made a mention a few minutes ago that they just went into dual membership. And what that is actually a billing process where SHRM collects the national dues and the local chapter dues, if you have them, at the same time and automatically renews both memberships. Took me quite a while to grasp that. And then Diana and I started talking. It's dual membership or it's dual billing membership, dual billing. So I'll put that in the chat as well, but I wanted to clarify that for anyone else that might be confused.
Thank you, Marty. And even though some chapters do not charge dues, they still, the members can still go in and renew with SHRM and that chapter. So that's why that billing part is not in there. So for the purpose of Excel, it's a dual member, a member of SHRM and a local chapter. Next slide, Jonathan. So this is going to just highlight that you first need to have that dual membership initiative plus one other initiative in order to qualify for the bronze. If you are looking to submit for silver, you got that dual membership plus 2 initiatives on top of it. And gold, of course, is the dual membership plus 3 initiatives. And for platinum, it's dual membership plus 4 initiatives. So next slide, please. So let's just talk about the how you can capture your information. It's a multiple step process, as you can see on this slide. First, you're going to submit for what you what category you are requesting, and there's really not much room for a lot of information. So you want to give a brief overview and definitely hit on the highlights. What makes your goal or objective? How is this goal strategic? Make sure you're, again, just highlighting and hitting those words that really describe your initiative. I think the most important part that I wanted to highlight, though, is what did you do to accomplish this goal and what was the outcome? And we're looking for how that outcome was achieved, who, what, when, how, and the results. So if you said that you had an initiative where you had a networking event and you invited 50 people that were not members of your chapter, we want to know the results. How many people showed up? What came of that afterwards? What did you do with those 50 members? So we're looking for the results of that initiative. Next slide, please. So acceptable initiatives is going to have a goal, strategies for reaching that goal, implementation information, and an impact or a result. Assign the collection of information and reporting to one person because this is a big project, the Excel. Discuss and plan what initiatives to highlight at the board meeting, and ask a core leadership's area to lead an initiative so that it's not one person submitting all of it. So if you're going to have something around the certification, if you're going to have, make sure you have those groups put together, but one person is collecting it and submitting it. Also, promote, make sure you're sharing this information and promote it on your website, show your badge, and talk about it in your membership meetings. And make sure once you get that award, that you're utilizing it to get that recognition. Okay. Any questions around Excel? And I think I've seen some comments over here from someone. Right, Mike Owens for Excel report. It's important to have accomplishments measurable and clearly articulated. That information on the report. Thank you, Mike. Absolutely. We need it to be measurable.
So regarding the Excel, it is initiatives regarding the various CLA initiatives. And I did want to take a moment to recognize that Dana Mullins, who is the Vice President of HR Florida State Council, is with us this evening. In her role, she oversees the 8 CLAs that areas that SHRM focuses on. She has a director focusing on each one of those initiatives. And then we have additional directors, government for both national and state, so dividing that role. Dana works very closely with the CLA directors at the state level, and then trickling down to the chapter level. That is why we ask that when you submit your CLIF, that you send a copy to HR Florida so that Dana and her team can create group emails. And when there is something going on in DE&I, that we can communicate with your chapter leader for that area, as well as the president or someone else that's been designated. And then we can continue those conversations. Everything that we do as volunteer leaders, it starts at SHRM with projects, initiatives, and then it trickles down to the state level for Dana and the CLAs to reinforce and assist the chapters with creating their own ideas of how to bring those initiatives to fruition or what it means to their chapter. So I did want to take a moment and recognize Dana for being with us this evening.
I think the other thing, thank you, Marty. And the other thing to add is if you don't think what you did would qualify, think again. I mean, you guys do some really great stuff, and reach out if you want just to bounce it off. But you probably have plenty of initiatives to get the platinum, is what I'm saying. I know that you might discount some of the stuff that you do, but what you're doing is amazing, and we definitely want to recognize that.
A question here. I know, Marty, you shared the information about the audit requirement. Lots of great content being added in the chat box if you all are taking a look at that. But someone had asked for clarification, just double checking if we are in the dual membership billing program, we don't need to submit the audit file. Is that correct?
Oh, that's something totally different. If you are in the dual billing, you do not submit an audit. And if you're requested one, just reach out to me and I'll make sure that they get it clarified. So the dual billing, it's for 100% chapters. And yes, you have access, you'll get reports every day. So that's a little bit different than any chapter that's not 100%. So I expect everybody to apply for platinum. It's been a crazy year. No further questions?
Yeah, we say it over and over. Our chapters do amazing things, but we tend to not toot our own horn. And if we make a beginning of the year and assign each one of these initiatives to someone to just document, as Mike said, the outcomes, etc., you will have your bullet points, you will have your roadmap, if you will, to submit for platinum. Every chapter has at least 4 great things. It's a matter of taking the time and dedication, write it down and submit it. So really looking forward to that.
Thank you, Marty. Well said. Okay, Jonathan, next slide. So running a SHRM affiliate business is fun, but we know it's also a challenging opportunity. So that's why we tried to give you as many resources as we can through the VLRC and also the volunteer leader communications. So to get the most up-to-date information, you need to be getting the volunteer leader communication documents. And if you're not receiving them via email, then you need to reach out. So there's a couple things that could be blocking that. One is that you could have set up your profile so you're not getting third-party emails. That will block the volunteer email, or it could be going into your junk, or you may not be looking in the correct email. It's going to be the email that your account has been set up with. So it's very important that you're not opting out of any emails and that you're receiving this information because it's going to give you the latest and greatest information. Last year, I ran into a lot of problems with people not getting this information, and we just got to get that fixed so that you get this. So again, if you have cleaned up your opt-outs and you know what email it's going to, and you're still having problems, reach out so we can try to get this fixed so that you're getting this communication.
Regarding emails, SHRM has everyone listed by email. So while many of us may have a chapter at me at the chapter email or me at the HR Florida email address, it is the email that you have attached to your SHRM national membership that all this communication is going to, because that is the email that has been flagged that you are a volunteer leader. So that's another little tidbit that we have learned along the way as we have transitioned to recognition through the email addresses.
Thank you, Marty. This is the chapter activities by month checklist. This is created for the chapters. However, it's good for the state council to have a copy of it as well to maybe touch base with them. But this is going to take you through what needs to be done, also what things that are good to do, or, and it's just a guide to help you get started and to actually determine which requirements you need to do or what is recommended, or just a great place to start running your chapter. Again, bring this to the board meeting and utilize it in the board meeting so you're all working off the same document. And then lastly, we do have a board orientation for anybody new coming in, or if you would like a refresher. It is a 3-part series. It's the business of SHRM, how to run your state council or chapter, and the third part is governance and operation for SHRM state councils or chapters. So these modules are going to give you all that information to help you be successful. And these, again, are on the VLRC. They're in the learning library. So when you're on the VLRC, you do need to go up to the red button and sign in to access this because it's not open to everyone. You have to sign in. And those were just a few items I wanted to touch base on as well so that you would be successful during the year. Is there anything else? Any questions out there? Thank you, Stephanie, for the question regarding updating the chapter activities for 2022. That is in the works. Hopefully we'll have that out soon. As soon as it's updated, I'll make sure it gets out to everyone.
Thank you, Diana. Anyone else have any questions or want to share some experiences over over the past year, and or any Excel initiatives that they're proud of that they've been successful in driving forward? We would love to hear about the great work that you're doing. It's a quiet group tonight.
Well, I do know in my local area, I'm in St. Petersburg. I'm a member of the HR Tampa, and I know that they were involved in the Better Workplace Challenge Cup. So that is a great initiative.
That's fantastic. HR Tampa launched an HR department of one. I think that's a conference that they put on for an HR department of one this fall. We know that everyone has had, it's been a challenging year and a half for sure. So thank you to HR Tampa for supporting your community in that way. And each of you has done so much great work. You know, it's again, as Stephanie Kahn said, yeah, everyone's done something COVID related that can be worked in. So really it takes time to step back and really think about the work that you've done, and quantifying your outcomes, right? We advise job seekers, you know, when you put your resume together, you should always quantify your success and quantify your outcomes and tell your story. And I think the same goes with our chapters. We really should give ourselves the credit that we deserve for the hard work that we do and how we are all advancing the profession of human resources with the work that we do and supporting our HR leaders. So, wow, groups are meeting monthly. SHRM Jacksonville has an annual conference. They're planning to hold a series of mini workshops versus a one-year conference. And that's definitely a great option, especially we're all still considering, some distancing opportunities, might not be able to fill a room. And that's a great way to keep people engaged and offer them nuggets of information. So yes, tell your story. Awesome. Any other questions for Diana? And we're going to have an opportunity at the end of this session for additional networking and more questions, but please keep the questions coming in the chat. And so without further ado, Diana, I think we're going to let you take a breather. Thank you so much for sharing this great information. And we're going to turn it over to Tammy, who is going to share how you can tie this all together. And Tammy's really put a lot of work into the HR Florida chapter dashboard. And there have been some additional initiatives this year, which have helped to make it a little easier. And I have to say, Tammy, the list that you put together at the end is magnificent. So I'm going to let you take it away. So thank you, Tammy, for being here with us tonight.
Absolutely. Well, I first want to thank Stephanie and Jahane and Marty for asking me to talk to you guys for a little bit tonight about the dashboard. And I love this whole leadership lab idea. I know it was something new that's been started since I was a DD a couple years ago. And I just think this is a fantastic way to share information and learn new things. So I appreciate the opportunity just to talk to y'all tonight. I've been where most of you are sitting in terms of either current president or incoming president for my before becoming a district director for 5 years. During that time, we started talking a lot as a district director team about how can we better assist our chapters? How can we keep in touch? How do we know, when they're doing well, when they need assistance? Some chapters wouldn't ask for assistance. Others thought they were doing okay, but maybe were struggling in certain areas. And some were knocking it out of the park, but were never sharing that information or, as Marty and them said, telling their story. So this kind of formulated in us putting together, working with HR Florida to come up with the chapter dashboard as it is today. And this is really a unique tool that I wish we had when I was a president, because what it does is it helps you as a chapter president and your board to start your planning process and tracking your information from the beginning of the year. So you're able to kind of go through all of these things that the dashboard walks you through and then build on it. As Diana had said, another living document. And so we'll go through this kind of page by page and talk about some highlights. But then I would love to answer any questions or hear any feedback that anybody has in terms of the document, because I know it's been through a couple of revisions to try to make it more user-friendly and helpful. So we'll go ahead and get started. Jonathan, if you can switch to the next slide. So this talks a little bit about pulling it all together. When we first rolled out the chapter dashboard, I think there was a lot of confusion or a little bit of hesitation, I guess, from the chapter presidents trying to figure out, well, why does HR Florida want all this information? Do they think we're doing something wrong? Do they think we're not getting things done? Or are there any issues? And it had nothing at all to do with that. This is a way for HR Florida and the district directors to come side by side with the chapter presidents and the chapter board members to help you continue to advance your chapter, to help you with any initiatives or resources that you may need, and to also help you capture that data to complete the SHAPE report and the Excel applications at the beginning of the following year. And trust me, as a president who had to fill out the SHAPE and Excel at the end of the year, not realizing that we needed to be tracking and accounting for a lot of this information, it took a lot of time to go back and kind of try to pull things together. All in, the series of about a month. So that's kind of where the dashboard came out of. District directors, as y'all know, are going to work very closely with you all. And it's important that the chapters are open to having those discussions. Sometimes they're great discussions, sometimes they're difficult discussions, but your district director is there to help you. They're there to, if they don't have a resource for you, try to help find a resource for you. So please make sure that you're utilizing your your district directors to help your chapter as much as possible. Next slide, Jonathan. Okay, so new for 2021. I see that the form finally got an editable PDF for online completion. So I know Stephanie and Con and some of those that filled it out before when it was a Word document are happy to be able to now type in there and not have to print it and write it and scan it. So it's come a long way in the last couple of years. And then additional links have been provided to SHRM information. And then we also wanted chapters to start thinking about things that they, kind of areas to consider when operating during a pandemic. On the first page, before we switch to the next slide, I want to just talk about a couple of the things on this page. When you start out Q1 and you're filling this out, whether you fill it out before you have that first call with your district director, or whether you're on a call with them and going through it together, or sitting across the lunch table or dinner table or wherever, meeting face to face, it's really important to be open to, just putting it down on paper, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, because this is going to be your foundation for how you're really going to look at moving forward. Not that things can't change and be shifted, but this is kind of where you are as of January. So thinking about what support do you need from HR Florida? How can your district director help you? What keeps you up at night? That's such a critical question when you think about it, because all of us, especially HR professionals, none of us leave our jobs at the office. If you can, then I'd love to know how you do it, because I go to bed at night and there are things that constantly go through my head about what do I need to do tomorrow? What's going on with this? How can I solve this problem? What am I going to do with this manager? Those types of things. And it's the same thing when you're running a chapter, except that's your second job and it's unpaid, and we do it because we love it. So I think it pulls at us even more. So be willing to kind of share in this document and with your district director, those things that do keep you up at night. And then y'all can work on how to maybe work through and solve some of those issues. Board positions and succession planning, both you're going into your new year without board positions filled. Utilize your district director to brainstorm on different ways you can go about attracting folks to get those positions filled. And then succession planning early on in the year, so that when your positions roll out at the end of, for this year, end of 2021, you're not waiting until November or December to figure out who you're going to put in that spot for January 1st. Implementing things that you've learned at leadership. This year's leadership conference was amazing. Tracy Hall did a phenomenal job with her team of district directors to put on fantastic programming for the leadership conference. So, we all walk away from that conference excited and energized and with tons of ideas. Don't lose that by January. Figure out, what do you want to implement from leadership? What did you bring back that you thought would be something fantastic for your chapter? So make sure that you write that down and get that on paper so you don't lose sight of that. And then finally, they talk a little bit about membership dues, membership initiatives, any changes in membership things that you're dealing with due to the pandemic. Again, capturing that information on this document is going to be helpful for filling out your SHRM documents at the end of the year, but it's also going to help you kind of gauge as you move through 2022. Nobody knows what's going to go on with the pandemic. We've got another strand of this virus, and so we kind of all go up and down when it comes to things are getting better and then some things go south. So just kind of keeping your focus on how things are shifting. It's good to be able to come back and refer to what you put in the first quarter in this document. And then as you move through the next quarters, these are things you can come back and update, things you can add things to or make changes to. So it really is helpful to just be honest and kind of raw with the information that you're putting in here to share. Okay, Jonathan, next page. Okay, page 2. So we're talking about a lot of your, there you go. We're talking about a lot of those core leadership areas. So we're talking about student chapters, certification, study groups, workforce readiness, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and your legislative affairs. This is a great opportunity. Again, Q1, go ahead and start working with your board to figure out, what are these initiatives going to look like? What are we trying to accomplish, not only in these core leadership areas, but as a board for our chapter? Do our initiatives align with the overall, arching goal? When I was a chapter president, I always tried to have my core leadership areas look at, what is the overall arching goal of our chapter board for this year? What are we trying to accomplish? And then how do each one of these core leadership initiatives get us to that ultimate goal? So while the initiatives themselves within the core leadership areas are important, if everybody's going in 15 different directions, at the end of the year, it doesn't help to pull the chapter goals together. So it's really important to kind of get those down. As Marty said in the chat, it also holds each other accountable. When you put down your initiatives, you're committing to what you're looking to accomplish. And I think it helps you then formulate a roadmap early on of what's needed. What type of resources do I need? Do I need additional people to form a committee? Is this going to cost money? Do we have money in the budget for this initiative? So there's a lot of different things that you can look at as you're formulating these initiatives. And then again, going back quarter after quarter and updating this information to ensure that everyone is staying on task. And if for some reason an initiative has to change, or it turns out, it's going to cost more, or it takes more resources, then coming back to the table as a board and talking through, what does that change look like? And how do you pivot, for lack of a better word, on making sure that there's still an accomplishment for that initiative within that core leadership area by the end of the year. Okay. Let's see. And then at the very bottom, and I apologize, I'm sprinting, the membership information and social media engagement. This is where you're going to start really putting your numbers down in one central place that's going to be extremely helpful by the end of the year when you start going back and trying to look at numbers and kind of where you started and where you ended. So for membership, just like social media engagement, you start with, where did you finish 2021? What is your goal for 2022? And then where are you at the end of each quarter? And what that does is it helps you keep your eye on the prize. If you wait until quarter 4 to realize that your membership goal or your social media engagement goal is significantly less than where you thought you would be, then there's not a lot of time to catch up. But if you really focus on where your numbers are at the end of each quarter, it will help, excuse me, it will help tremendously for you to then be able to get back on track if you're off track, or to celebrate some really good membership enrollment and engagement when you see those numbers higher than what you even anticipated. So it's really important that this information gets put in on a quarterly basis. And I always feel like, with that board engagement, making sure that your board members understand from the beginning how important all of this information is. But they also need to understand the end picture. So as a president, when I was learning as a president elect, Shape and Excel were things that we kind of talked about at a president elect kind of level. We kind of talked to each other. We went through it with each other, but a lot of the board members didn't really know much about it. They just knew they were giving us information that we asked for. Looking back in hindsight, I think it's really helpful that all the board members have buy-in to exactly where all of their accomplishments and everything they're tracking and providing information on, what it's going to be used for. Because I feel like then it just gives them a little bit more, as I said, buy-in as to what the chapter board membership is working on as a whole. Next slide, please, Jonathan. Okay, and then page 3 is a continuation of where you're, again, tracking that information by different areas. So we ask for information on operating funds and budget. Where did the chapter finish at the end of 2021 versus what are they budgeted for 2022? And then looking at the end of each quarter, where are you? This is a great way, while we all, look at financials, we review them, we vote on them. There's still a lot of folks on the board that may not truly understand some of those impacts. And I think it's important that when you're looking at it, there's no surprises. I know when you see it on paper, you should understand it, but sitting back every quarter and figuring out, okay, wait a minute, now we've been through a quarter, where are we? Are we where we need to be money wise? Do we need to pull back on some things, recognizing that maybe we spent too much in quarter one that we weren't anticipating? So it's just, to me, it's really helpful. I'm a numbers person and I like to have things in front of me. I'm just very visual. So, I think it's important. Same thing with reserves. If your chapter does have reserves, make sure that you're keeping track of those. Where were the reserves at the end of the year? What is your budget for where they're going to be? And then at the end of every quarter, have you added to the reserves? Did something, horrific happen and you had to actually go into the reserves? Or maybe there was a plan for that 1 year to go into the reserves a certain amount in order to be able to do something, recognizing that you were then going to have to start putting money back in. SHRM Foundation, this is a great way to track all of that information. And then finally, your event details. And event details tie into those initiatives because you can look at how you are attracting new members. You can look at how you're attracting guests to your meetings. It helps, with tracking attendance and figuring out, where you had higher success numbers, whether it was a certain presenter that always attracts a lot of members or attendees, or whether it's a particular topic. And it also helps track the times when maybe a meeting wasn't as successful as you thought it was going to be. But this will also help you keep track of other things besides meetings, any type of event that you have, whether it's a networking event, a SHRM Foundation fundraiser, some type of community involvement where you're going out into your community and doing something to help better your community, but to also help your community get to know your chapter better as well. So this isn't just for membership meetings. This can be for any event that you have going on. And again, it's a way to track all of that information. Page 4, Jonathan. And finally, page 4 is asking about support for programming. I think programming is something that, we try to bring in new presenters. We try to bring in new topics for our chapters. Sometimes we get in a rut and we end up using the same folks, recycling them over and over every year. And I think sometimes that's due to lack of financial abilities to bring in speakers, to pay them to come. And a lot of times it's not easy to get them for free. I know Big Bend, we didn't pay speakers, and it was always a challenge calling someone and saying, hey, can you come here but speak for free? So utilize the Florida has with their Speakers Bureau. SHRM also has a Speakers Bureau that is available. But if there's anything that you need support-wise for programming, put it down here, talk through it with your district director, and, let HR Florida know. Also, there's a question here about utilizing the funding that HR Florida was providing for a speaker for the year. So, it's good for HR Florida to understand, yes, we're budgeting for this money, but how many of the chapters are taking advantage of it? Is it useful? Is it something that we should look at continuing from budget year to budget year? So, that's important to, provide that information as well and talk through that with your district director. Okay, so I'm done with page 4. I'm going to open it up for questions, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the last part of the dashboard document. Any questions from anyone about the dashboard? Any frustrations with it? Any, questions or hesitations about any of the information that it asked chapters to provide?
We are currently in the process of updating the dashboard for 2022. So any comments that you have at all, put them in the comment section. Feel free to reach out to your DD or to me directly, that it is incorporated if we can. And I'd like to say that, people chapters that save their dashboards year over year, that really creates a history. One of the challenges that we have with volunteer-led organizations is that people leave, and with them goes that knowledge base leaves. So the dashboard can become your living history.
And I was just looking up real quick on the HR Florida dashboard. I saw that there was a question. Where's the information for the Speakers Bureau? So if you go to the HR Florida website and you hover over the resources tab at the top, and you'll see a drop-down box open. I think it's the 5th one down. It says Speakers Bureau. If you click on the Speakers Bureau link, you will see information on there about folks from the executive committee who are able to come and speak at your chapter, council members, and then various contributors. I think right now we just have Kate Shockey on here. We are in the process of updating. Marty, I believe we talked about this, updating the Speakers Bureau information. I think it had been up here for a while, and so we've asked folks to kind of reevaluate what topics they now have and who's able to provide, chapter assistance in terms of coming out and speaking. So once we get more folks on here, it'll be updated as we get more information back in, but we've just asked them to provide their information and then any topics that they're able to come and speak on. So you'll see that here. And then there's also information at the bottom about partner organizations that are also able to provide speakers to your chapters to come out and do presentations. So make sure to check back here. If there's something that you're looking for a speaker on and you're just not sure where to start, talk to your district director and see, if they have any resources. And if not, they can reach out to HR Florida and, get some information and get you in touch with someone that, could possibly come out and help with your programming.
I'm also walking you through what you were saying,
Okay.
Speakers Bureau here on the website. Additionally, the Sizzle committee is also working on some other add-ons for speakers. So that'll be coming in this next year, just a foreshadowing.
And as Marty said on here, the chapter assistance program is still ongoing. So HR Florida is providing a year to chapters for certified programming. So, if you're one of those chapters that, you've got a tight budget, but you would love to be able to bring someone in that you normally wouldn't be able to, make sure that you talk to your district director about, applying and obtaining that money so you're able to bring someone in, whether it's for a conference or whether it's even for some type of member programming event or something like that. The assistance is there, and it is there for all of the chapters. And I think Molly had a question about the dashboard is when you log in. Marty, I don't believe the dashboard is available on the HR Florida website yet, correct? Is that something that the district directors are still sending out?
It is available in the members only section and in the HR Florida VLRBM. Okay. But I will work with Molly on the link. And when we get the 2022 one up and running, we will definitely share that with everyone.
Okay. Perfect. Any other questions before we move on to the last section on the dashboard? Okay. Jonathan, if you want to go ahead and flip to the 5th page. Okay, so on the 5th page, and we went back and forth on when we created this, do we do this as a separate document? But we felt like then you just have to keep up with 2 different things. So it's kind of helpful to have everything all here together. And as Diana mentioned, some of those key dates for SHRM, we felt like there's a lot of key dates between council meetings and conferences and all kinds of other deadlines for whether it's registration or booking a hotel or SHRM annual conference coming up, or, all of those different things, that it would be helpful to kind of put it all together in one document and provide as many links as possible. So you're not having to kind of fish around to figure out where access this information. And I know, as a former chapter president, being able to look at this and say, okay, in January, I know that I have all of these things coming up, whether it's something that is an action item for me or whether it's something I need to share with the board to make sure that we're on target for whatever it is we need to do. And it was extremely helpful for planning out the year. As opposed to being surprised by something that I had dropped the ball on and forgotten about or missed on a website somewhere. So just know that I think it's page 5 and page 6. Jonathan, if you can flip one more page. And I apologize, it's so small I can't see the writing. Maybe it's page 7 as well. Is that November, December? Yes. So this goes all the way through the year. And like Marty said, it's something that is updated by the district director team each year. So the new one will be available at the beginning of the year. But if you're like me, a few of you personally, so I know that you're planners. So just know that, you can go ahead and start making notes for yourself. You can go ahead and start talking with your 2022 board members about ideas and about where you want to be. And I think by utilizing the dashboard in conjunction with, looking at all of the things that your chapter has done, it will make completing the SHAPE and the Excel application so much easier at the end of the year. Being able to just pull up a document and bring in some additional information will save you so much time. And I think it's a great way for chapters to go for platinum. I am always amazed at leadership, how many chapters come and talk about all of the great things they're doing. And yet we don't have all of our chapters, going for platinum. And I think, we're just so used to saying, oh, well, somebody else is doing this better, or we're just a small chapter and we are only these small things, or we're but we've got other chapters that probably did something better. Don't sell yourself short. I think all of our chapters do phenomenal work. And I think it's time that we shared that not only with SHRM and with HR Florida, but make sure you're sharing it with your members. Put it on your website, talk about the accomplishments that you're making. Talk about it at your membership meetings so that guests understand all of the great things that your chapter is doing. You know, put it out there. And I think that's a great way to attract new members. I think it's a great way to retain your members when they're hearing about all the wonderful things that you're doing. So, don't hesitate to utilize all the resources and pat yourself on the back. And hopefully we'll see a lot more platinum awards at the end of next year. If you have any other questions, feel free. You can always reach out to me, your district director team. They're amazing. So as well, obviously reach out with them, work with them. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone, email them, call them. That's what they're there for. And that's all for me. I wish everyone all the best. I know it's going to be a fantastic year, and I'm looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you, Tammy, so much. And this was really a lot of wonderful information. Again, many thanks to Diana and Tammy for providing the information that we have here today. The list of resources is just amazing. And I know we get asked the question all the time, where do I find this and where do I find that? And I think it's a great place to start, especially as you're all changing with your boards and bringing in some new team members. So really excited to provide this information for you. We've been asked a couple of times in the chat if the slides will be available, and the answer is yes. We will provide that information for all of you so that you can share that with your chapters. As we know, you're all beginning to launch in January the next year, and either tie up your strategic plan or begin to talk more about your strategic planning process and what 2022 is going to look like for all of you. So we'd like to just open this up now for some Q&A if you have any other questions, as well as networking, and then provide everybody the opportunity to turn your cameras back on, open up your microphone so that we can go back to the networking lounge. And then let's say we'll do that for about 10 minutes and then welcome Marty back to the stage so that she can close us out, and we can all get back to what we need to do for the evening. But again, thank you all for joining us. So Jonathan, can you manage that for us?